Settle in. Let your breath slow. Let your body find stillness. Tonight, we're stepping into the rigid, layered silence of feudal Japan. A world of rice fields and war banners, ink scrolls and sharpened steel. You've heard of the samurai. You've seen the armor, the blades, the solemn masks. But the truth, as always, lives beneath the surface, in the muddy boots, the whispered orders, and the forgotten names. This is not the story of noble warriors standing in moonlight. This is the quieter, harsher, grittier truth of what it meant to serve in the shadows of feudal honor, to march for days on empty stomachs, to kneel in the mud beneath a lord's banner, to live and die without ever lifting a famous sword. Tonight, you are not the hero. You are not the general. You are an Ashigaru, a peasant soldier. And this is your life. Now breathe gently. Let your thoughts drift as we begin, with why it truly, deeply sucked to be a samurai foot soldier. Imagine this. You are a poor rice farmer. You own little. You owe much. The wind whistles low across your field. Your back aches. And then the summons comes. A warlord has decided to claim a mountain pass. You, like thousands of others, are ordered to join the army. There is no training, no pay, no choice. Your hoe becomes a spear. Your hat becomes a helmet, if you're lucky. You are now a Ashigaru, light-foot soldier, the expendable edge of the empire. You leave home in silence, one morning before dawn. Your wife does not speak. Your child sleeps. You walk with other men who also do not speak, because there is nothing left to say. The road is long. Mud clings to your sandals. The armor on your chest is made of thin metal plates strung together with cords, lacquered if your lord is generous. It chafes as you move. You carry everything on your back: water, rice, your weapon, your fear. The march lasts for days, sometimes weeks. You sleep in rows beside strangers. If it rains, you are wet. If it is hot, you sweat until your clothes crust over. You eat cold rice when you have it, and chew salted vegetables when you don't. Your spear is long, meant more for crowd control than personal glory. You stand in rows and wait, and wait. Sometimes you charge, sometimes you die. Sometimes you simply watch your comrades vanish in front of you, and then the next man steps into their place. When battle begins, there is noise, but no clarity. Arrows fall from above like summer hail. Your job is to hold the line, even as you tremble, even as the man beside you collapses. You are not remembered, not named, not praised. If you survive, you march back. The same road, the same silence. But this time, fewer footsteps. At home, nothing has changed. Your field lies fallow. Your house is smaller. You return not as a warrior, but as a man who was nearly broken for someone else's gain. The samurai ideals, Bushido, loyalty, death before dishonor, those were not meant for you. You served. You obeyed. And when your time came, you bowed your head and stepped forward. Your name does not enter the scrolls, but your blood soaked the same earth. Now rest and allow your mind to drift from the mud of the battlefield into the shadows of another story. The snow falls softly, blanketing the streets of Edo. Lanterns flicker behind paper walls, and inside one modest house, 47 men sit in silence, their faces calm, their minds already resolved. This is the end of a long path, a path carved by loyalty, by vengeance, and by a code that asks everything and gives nothing back. You may have heard of them, the 47 Ronin, masterless samurai, legends of loyalty, icons of Japanese history. But remove the poetry, and what you have is something slower, quieter, more bitter than noble. Let's go back. Their lord, Asano Naganori, was young, proud, and not politically skilled. In the year 1701, during a ceremonial visit to the shogun's court, he was provoked, humiliated by a senior court official named Kira Yoshinaka. In a moment of anger, Asano drew his sword inside Edo Castle, striking but not killing Kira. It was a grave mistake. Weapons were not to be drawn in the shogun's presence. For this breach, Asano was ordered to commit seppuku, ritual suicide, that very same day. His lands were confiscated. His retainers became Ronin, leaderless warriors, stripped of purpose and station. Most would scatter, find new lords, fade away. But 47 of Asano's men chose something else. They waited for over a year. They pretended to move on, to become merchants, monks, beggars, all the while watching Kira. And then one night, in the winter of 1703, they struck. It was quiet, swift. No innocent lives were taken. They stormed Kira's residence, found him hiding in a storage shed, and offered him the same fate as their master, death by his own hand. When he refused, they killed him with calm, practiced efficiency. They then walked to Asano's grave, placed Kira's head upon it, and turned themselves in. The shogunate was torn. They had broken the law, but upheld Bushido. They had defied authority, yet exemplified devotion. After weeks of debate, the decision came. All 47 were ordered to commit seppuku, not as criminals, but as samurai. So they did, each man, one by one, in the same way their master had died. Calmly, precisely, alone but together. Their graves remain in Sengakuji Temple. Even now, visitors leave incense and poems. But what exactly were they? Heroes? Fanatics? Men caught in a system that demanded death as proof of virtue? Loyalty in feudal Japan was not a feeling. It was structure. It was expectation. It was iron disguised as honor. They lived not for glory, but because they believed they had no choice. Their story, like many in history, is both inspiring and unsettling. And now, we step further down this quiet path, into tunnels beneath stone walls, a realm of whispers, shadows, and unseen footsteps. Let your breath slow as we descend. Now, the battlefield fades, the blood dries, the swords are sheathed. In its place, a hush. Stone walls rise like silent giants. The air cools. The noise of life softens. You are standing beneath a Japanese castle, not in its grand halls or on its battlements, but deep below, in the foundation of its power, in the passages that were not meant to be seen. Japanese castles, or shiro, were more than just fortresses. They were machines of control, symbols of wealth, engines of fear. Every floorboard, every stone had intent behind it. What most never saw were the things hidden: trapdoors, blind corners, false walls, and tunnels carved for escape or ambush. These weren't castles in the Western sense, massive stone blocks and open towers. Japanese castles were layered, built on hills, wrapped in dry moats and winding walls. Their designs followed the principle of defense through confusion. You did not simply march through a gate. You were funneled, turned, forced to circle, By the time you reached the inner sanctum, if you ever did, you were exhausted or already dead. But the real mystery lies below. Some castles, like Himeji or Matsumoto, were said to have hidden passageways beneath their foundations, escape routes perhaps, or secret entries for spies. Stories tell of narrow stairways leading under the keep, of corridors only known to the daimyo and his closest guards. One legend speaks of tunnels stretching from Osaka Castle all the way into the countryside. Another hints that the Tokugawa shogunate maintained a hidden underground network connecting its major fortresses, a way to move messages and men unseen. But these tunnels have rarely been found. Some may never have existed. Others may have been sealed, destroyed, or buried under modern cities. In some cases, they were little more than storm drains or storage areas, later inflated by imagination. Yet the idea remains, hidden movement beneath still stone, the feeling that beneath every order, every ceremony, lay something deeper and darker. There were also ninja, or shinobi, tied forever to these whispers. Not the fantasy warriors of pop culture, but shadowy agents, more often used for information than assassination. They may have crept through these tunnels, or maybe they didn't. The truth about ninja is as murky as the soil beneath your feet. Some tunnels were real, some were metaphor, some were both. In the great keep of Edo Castle, now the Imperial Palace, there are records of secret stairways leading from the shogun's personal chambers to the barracks below, a last escape, a final option. In Japanese architecture, silence and space were part of control. Floors were sometimes designed to creak, on purpose. Nightingale floors, they were called. Boards that chirped like birds when stepped on, making stealth impossible. Yet in other places, there was only silence. No creak, no light, no return. Underneath all this, beneath the polished paper walls, the ornate calligraphy, the orderly structure of court and clan, was always the possibility of sudden collapse, and the quiet preparations made for it. The tunnels were not just places, they were ideas, a reminder that for all the ceremony, all the structure, nothing in feudal Japan was truly safe. Now the walls tighten, the passage narrows, but ahead a door opens. It leads not down, but up. Into golden rooms, silk robes, and painted screens. As we ascend, we leave the mud and shadows behind, and enter the world of the elite. Let your mind drift there as we continue. Now, the cold stone fades, the torchlight dims, the silence of tunnels gives way to an even softer quiet, the kind shaped not by fear, but by elegance. You are no longer a soldier, no longer marching, no longer beneath. You are now a court noble and kuge in Kyoto during the Heian period. It is the year 1020, and the world around you is ruled not by war, but by refinement. The capital breathes slowly. It does not shout. It whispers. Here, status is measured not in land or swordsmanship, but in calligraphy, in how gracefully you compose a poem about mist, in the layering of your silk robes, and the way your incense leaves a trail behind you. Your day begins not with command, but with consideration. You rise slowly, the light filtered through paper screens. A servant draws back the curtains. Another brings water warmed just so, enough to wash your hands and face, not to bathe. Your robes are chosen with care, not just for color, but for season, mood, occasion. Today, 3 layers, each with harmonized hues. Outer robes in pale plum, inner sleeves in subdued green, You smell of aloes wood, smoked into your garments overnight. You will not speak much today. Words are dangerous. Everything is written. A glance can mean everything. A misplaced poem. Ruin. Breakfast is rice porridge, mild and unseasoned. Your teeth are blackened, not with rot, but by choice. It is considered beautiful, a mark of status, age, and restraint. You walk slowly, not because you are lazy, but because speed is vulgar. At court, everything is coded. Rank determines who you see, where you sit, how you bow. To misstep is to insult. To insult is to invite ruin. The emperor, wrapped in layers of sacred distance, is rarely seen and rarely heard. His presence is ceremonial, divine. Real power shifts behind screens, in the hands of the Fujiwara regents. You write, constantly, letters, verses, replies, all in careful, stylized kana. Not for clarity, but for beauty. Even a rejection must be composed with grace. Women in court wield influence through poetry, observation, and patience. Many remain behind blinds, unseen, but their presence shapes the world. Lady Murasaki, across the palace grounds, is writing a long, quiet story about love, time, and longing. The tale of Genji will endure long after emperors vanish. The day continues with ceremonies. Scrolls are exchanged. Prayers are whispered. Everything is slow, deliberate, and light. Even joy is subdued. To be a court noble is to be a shadow cast in sunlight. You are surrounded by beauty, but confined by it. You do not farm, you do not fight, you do not build. Your world is words, layered silk, silent rivalries, and the looming fear of falling out of favor. At night, you sleep on a thin mat. The room smells of cypress and ink. Outside, the wind moves through reed blinds. A candle flickers. You wonder quietly if your poem was well received, if your robes were right, if your life, so carefully arranged, is still safe. And then, you close your eyes. So now you've seen it all, from the blistered feet of a conscript soldier to the final breath of the loyal Ronin, from tunnels beneath stone to silk robes behind palace screens. Feudal Japan was a land of contrasts, of rigid structure and chaotic violence, of exquisite beauty and suffocating duty. Honor was not a feeling. It was a cage, a weight, a path laid in stone long before your feet touched it. Tonight, you've walked that path, slowly, gently, step by step. And now, it fades behind you. Let the war banners fall. Let the incense trail vanish into air. Let your breath slow and your eyes grow heavy. Because you are no longer Ashigaru, no longer noble, no longer anything at all. You are only here in silence, in stillness. Good night.